Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're gonna just wait a minute or two before starting, just to let a couple other people join, and then we'll get going on this session with the StockTrim team surrounding inventory forecasting. So, give us 1 minute, and we'll get going. And I was going to say, in the meantime, too, feel free in the chat box, say hello, where you're from. Okay, I think we can get started here. Wow, we got people globally. I'm also located in Toronto, so my name is Mark. So I head up technology partnerships here at Katana, and here today we've got Dom, founder of StockTrim, and Neil, customer success manager at StockTrim, and we're going to be going through a bunch of different pieces around trends and opportunities within forecasting. After which as well, we're going to be doing a demo of the StockTrim solution. So if you got questions throughout, feel free to post, and we'll regroup at the end there. But I'll let kind of Dom start out here and do his thing. Really excited to have the StockTrim team here today, and I think there's going to be a lot of great learnings for everyone who's able to join us. So thank you for joining us.
Great. Thanks, Mark. Yes, very excited to be here, guys. Neil and I are Kiwis, so hopefully you can understand what we're saying. I'll try to elongate my vowels a little bit for all you guys. And so I'm the founder of StockTrim. Just a real quick background on how we came about, and also look at some trends. And I'll also give you a use case scenario, a very brief one of a user of StockTrim. And Neil's going to quickly run through a little bit of insight into the software as well. So hopefully you'll get some good takeaways from today. The reason I founded StockTrim about 4 years ago now was I had a wholesale and import and wholesale toy business, and I had a huge inventory problem, and which basically sucked a lot of my cash flow and promptly lost a lot of money over about 2 years before I managed to sort it all out. If I had had a tool like StockTrim at that time, I would have saved myself, I estimate, around about just over $1 million in 24 months as a result of some of the impacts in that business that I incurred while I was trying to rectify the situation. So when I saw the opportunity to start StockTrim, I jumped at it. I thought it was a great solution for SME or SMB business product businesses, and I love the fact that we could digitally serve it globally. So here we are. I'll give you a quick rundown of some of the trends we're seeing. But first, just a quick overview of what StockTrim actually is. So it's an inventory planning, demand forecasting tool that attaches to your existing inventory management or inventory recording system. It uses AI algorithms to read all your behaviors, your sales patterns, your skew behavior, velocity, all those sort of things, and projects your future requirements right down to the point of automating or creating purchase order recommendations. You can then send those back into your system that you use to order inventory, and you should receive an optimized inventory. I'll go into some of the outcomes of StockTrim shortly, but first, some trends. Obviously, you're probably sick to death of hearing about the pandemic and COVID and all that sort of thing. There's been some impacts in the supply chain, obviously, having to switch around. Before the pandemic, it seemed very normal to import everything, all your supplies from quite far away, but with some breakdown in the supply chain. Many manufacturers and wholesale businesses having to reconsider who they're buying from, last minute changes, so basic chaos. And we're seeing that impact on our client base, and thankfully with a bit of automation, some of these dramatic impacts can be quickly rectified. Another one is the growing number of niche manufacturers and wholesalers. We're seeing some very exciting businesses come through in all sorts of fields. One that springs to mind instantly is the food and beverage area. A lot of challenger brands, a lot of very niche dietary requirements being served by startup manufacturing businesses. And with this nationalization supply chain, locally sourced, all that sort of stuff, we're seeing some really interesting emerging businesses come through. The impact from a tech point of view, we'll go into shortly, but these businesses, they're growing, they're small but growing. They don't have a lot of money, but they need something smart to deal with the complexity of what they're producing. The other thing is the app ecosystem. So along what I said before, if you're a small but scaling business, sometimes it's too much to add in a complex ERP system. You want to start out a little bit small, something that grows with you. The trend which has been for the last few years, is to stack a series of apps that suit you at the time together in order to fulfill your needs at that time. And so, for example, you're seeing a whole conglomeration of apps from accounting through to CRM, warehouse management, inventory management, and then of course ours. So the way that I explain it is with the accounting, something like Katana, and then ours is like hindsight, insight, and then foresight. So it's sort of the trifecta, and then add in warehouse management, CRM, all those sort of things. The consequence of that is the next trend, which is the data overload. So you're getting a lot of information now, but the problem is how a business is dealing with this, and just dropping some of the stuff into spreadsheets and playing around with it a little bit is not really making the best use of that data. You do want to have systems and software that read this and make use of it in your daily life. It's pointless having stuff that's sitting there and you know that it's there, but you can't really make use of it, and it's just too problematic to haul through it manually. So those are 4 quick industry trends. There's plenty of others. I'm sure you could think of some. I just thought I'd touch on those lightly because they sort of lean to where we're going with StockTrim. So you might ask, well, how I've explained what StockTrim does. How does it fit? Well, we saw the opportunity in this market where a lot of you may be using, especially in your sort of in the early stage, you might have a MRP system, you're using Katana, or you might be using something else. It's recording your inventory, but you're still dropping to a CSV file or something else that you stitch together to do your forecasting. And this is very common when we're talking to businesses in the SMB category. So the problem is Excel can be too simplistic. It gets messy quickly. We see like somebody, your inventory planner or yourself possibly creating this spreadsheet. I call it the Taj Mahal spreadsheet. There's no standardization. Possibly other people in the organization don't know how to use it properly. Or if you do have a planner that built this thing and they leave, then you got some huge issues. And that's some of the things we see coming through. And also just human error and human bias, miskeying something, or just a presumption that's just not based on any kind of science or fact. So on the other side, we've got the enterprise level systems, the ERPs. For some of yourselves, I'm not sure. Obviously, we've got quite a varied group here. You have to be slightly on the larger side to justify an all-in-one system. They're kind of complex and they take quite a bit of time to set up. And we trip across guys using ERPs where some of their staff still don't know how to use it properly, or they're not happy with some of the modules within it. And we do get a bit of business. We have NetSuite customers and Microsoft Dynamics customers who can't use the modules for planning in those systems, and they prefer to use an add-on like ourselves because it's because of some of the feature sets that we have, and of course ease of use. So we can get set up very quickly. So expensive, time consuming, it's kind of complexity, a lot of training, big learning curve to use some of these ERP systems. So StockTrim sort of sits in between with sort of $1 million to 20 million turnover kind of businesses. I think from memory, our smallest customer's got 12 SKUs, but our average SKU count somewhere between 3,000 and 5,000. So that's the market that we serve, just to give you some sort of idea of where we sit in that ecosystem. So what are some of the outcomes that StockTrim brings to businesses like yourself that are in manufacturing? I like to just focus on 3 clear financial outcomes. The feature set and everything else is there, but the outcomes are the increased working capital. You'll be aware of what can happen when you don't buy things you don't need. Obviously, you still got that money in your bank account. We've seen some businesses, particularly in the e-commerce area, that are technically illiquid because all their product is sitting on their shelves in their warehouse, and they actually have to sell some in order to raise some more money. So and they may have to discount because they need to move some stuff. In manufacturing, it's really more about being efficient with your materials, reducing chances of obsolete and expired ingredients, goods, parts. The other one is just reduction of stockouts. In manufacturing particularly, obviously you don't want to hold up any production lines because you're missing a vital component. So there's a whole bunch of outcomes. Obviously you don't want to lose sales. You want to increase your customer service levels, or you don't want to really annoy your customers. So the third one is obviously with automation, huge savings in time. The system does the sync, does all the workings, it reads all the changes in behavior, and we're seeing around about 70-75% time saving in administration around replenishment and purchase order planning. So some really good hard-hitting financial outcomes there, all sort of put together by this proprietary machine learning algorithm my co-founder created. Just a brief overview. Well, this is actually on our website as well, for a Kiwi company, New Zealand company, Angel Food, manufacturer, not a huge one. I don't actually know right off the top of my head what their turnover is, but they're in that SME category. This guy, Justin, came across us. They were using spreadsheets from their inventory management system. It made him very nervous, with obviously potential losses of revenue, reputation, and trust, a pervading issue. So he put this in. We got him up to speed pretty quickly. We did have to do they were doing a few things a little bit unusually, so we had to adjust slightly for that. Helped him through that. Neil was on board with that as well. But now that the impacts are that we're able to predict the sales of their finished goods, and they're able to order the required quantities for their components and ingredients. They produce a dairy-free mozzarella, just so you know. Quite specialized, one of those niche manufacturers I was talking about. So they always have enough in their warehouse ready for manufacture, and there's no delays to their production and manufacturing facilities. And also with the disruption, obviously with COVID, Justin makes a comment that he was in the supermarket, he's seeing some of their competitors who just didn't have product on the shelves, and they were able to adjust to the disruption that some of the supply chain endured through lockdowns and all sorts of other shipping delays and things like that. So the result is that it was basically a lifesaver. I think that's the term he used. And it's also given, the other thing that we see is once they learn to trust the system, it gives them some security. It gives them, democratizes inventory planning a little bit in their business, and also gives them confidence that the system does a lot of the heavy lifting, and he's able to actually train a colleague to do some of the work for him as he moved on to other higher priority activities. So it's just that he uses the word confidence and security a lot when he was doing his story for us. So that's guys, that's just a use case. I probably should have put more pictures in there to make it more interesting. But anyway, that's the end of my rundown on what StockTrim's about. We're going to have some Q&A at the end, or you may want to put some questions in there for Mark as well. But now Neil's going to run through pretty quickly just a little bit of an insight into the actual into StockTrim itself. So thank you.
Thanks, Dom. I've just shared my dashboard here so you can see what StockTrim looks like on the screen. So hopefully you can all see that. I'm just quickly going to go over 4 things so you can see how StockTrim works. So we'll go over the getting your data in from Katana via the API, what the key numbers look like within StockTrim, what the background data is that you can edit, and then I'll quickly show you the pricing page so you can understand how our model works. So in terms of getting data into StockTrim from Katana, you just come to the load data screen, click on the Katana icon, and from here, once the pop-up comes up, all you need to do is, once the link has been enabled, bring across all these fields here. If you've got any difficulties with creating the API link, click on the help button here. That will bring up a screen that runs you through the screenshots to show you through the process. But your data will come through from Katana automatically, and then StockTrim will produce its first batch of forecasts, basically. So everything happens automatically through the API. So any changes that you make in Katana, you can come in and sync at any time into StockTrim, and the forecast will update from there. So what we produce ultimately is an order recommendation number for you to go away and follow. And there's obviously a lot of complex machine learning happening in the background, but ultimately it's all about producing a number over here in the right-hand side column for you to go away and follow, whether it's a production order. So in this case, I'm making up individual cans of energy drink here. And so this quantity is an amount to go away and produce internally. Whereas if I open up and look at my components, what I've got here are amounts to go away and purchase from my suppliers. And what we produce here is a very simple, easy to follow binary recommendation. So anything in red in this column is a quantity. It's a call to action, basically. We're saying that you seriously need to start either ordering these products in or manufacturing them internally. And so anything in green is where we say that you've currently got excess stock. So very, very simple recommendation. If it's green, you've got excess, you don't need to do anything at the moment for the time period we're looking at. If it's red, if I scroll up, there's a requirement here that we think you need to go away and start producing or ordering these quantities in. And the system ranks the data based on the urgency that the ingredient or finished good is required. So the most urgent recommendations we'll show here at the top. We can produce forecasts by location. We can drill down by your suppliers, and we can also drill down by the top level categories that you pull across from Katana. Just to look at the background data that makes up each individual product's forecast. So here on this individual's energy drink can page, for example, there's 2 big calculations that are happening. We automatically work out what the potential sales are of your product going forward for the next 2 years. Then we compare this against what is the current stock position and the parameters of that stock, that you either can produce internally or buy in from your supplier. And ultimately, then we produce this order recommendation number from there. So we work out what potential demand is. We compare it against your current stock position and the details of that product, and then calculate an amount to go away and action from that point. And all these data points in here can be edited here internally within StockTrim. These can be imported via bulk CSV, but ultimately, like I said, it's all about producing a number here. And then just go back to here, stop the sharing and show the pricing page. Chrome tab. So the way that our pricing works, it's based on the number of SKUs that you keep active inside StockTrim at any time. So we offer a 14-day free trial. So you're welcome to set up a trial, connect Katana to StockTrim, bring in your data, and then we'll see the number of SKUs that you want to keep active, and go through a demo with you to work through your own data. But we offer monthly and annual plans, so you've got flexibility about what approach you want to ultimately continue on. So if you're, like Dom said, we're often dealing with clients here in the up to 2,000 SKUs or 2,000 to 5,000 SKUs. So you've got the ability to pay monthly, or if you want to realize some cost savings, you can buy a year upfront. So for example, $199 times 12 upfront, or $299 times 12 upfront. So that's a significant cost saving over the ongoing monthly subscription. So we're very flexible about the approach that you want to take. Just get your data in, decide how you want to use StockTrim, and we'll work with you going forward from there. So unless anybody has any other questions at this point in time, I just really wanted to quickly show you how to get your data in, how the pricing model works, and it's we're really quite keen to show people StockTrim. So we obviously want you to sign up for a demo or sign up for a trial, and we can then work with your data and look at what your numbers produce, basically. So
just jumping in quickly, Neil, do you want to just quickly show the bill of materials drill down?
Yes. Sorry, should go back to that.
Because I thought that, considering the audience, I don't know how many on here are using Katana at the moment, but we do have quite a great little feature in the bill of materials drill down. So Neil, just quickly explain that.
Yeah, so here, for example, we're producing a parent product, which is an individual can of energy drinks. We can see the 7 components that make that up. So this quantity here is an amount to go away and manufacture internally of your parent product, whereas these are forecasts for your individual components. So we can see here that we've got a tonic water that comes in liters, and that is used in four final finished products, of which one of these is the individual Guarana energy drink can. So here we're calculating the total demand for each individual component, and then the order recommendation, what to do, for each ingredient component, packaging material, etc. from there. So as long as you've got that BOM relationship set up in Katana, we will pull it across, show it here in this structure, and that can be a multi-level BOM structure. As long as it's in Katana, we'll pull it across and show and forecast for each level here in StockTrim.
This is great. There's a question that came up around how the system accounts for lead times on receiving materials. Does it account for it, and how that goes into the calculation?
Yeah, so we can read your lead times from your purchase order history, but we do recommend that you come in and initially and put in your lead times manually, because then it's obviously more realistic to the situations that you're currently facing. But you can come in and change the lead times at any time, or forecast for a longer period of time. So in this case, for this energy drink, I've got a 20-day internal manufacturing time that it takes to get it ready and package it up and ready to sell. But I'm actually forecasting for sales over a total period of 60 days, so another 40 days on top of that. So I'm making some product, and I want that to last not just a replenishment cycle of 20 days, but a longer cycle of 60 days in total. So if you need to forecast out for 6 months, for a year, if it takes 90 days to physically deliver your product, to order it and deliver it from an international location, for example, you can put in your own lead times and then forecast, if you need to, for longer lead times from there. So we're very flexible, and you can edit these variables at any time. So in this case, if I now want to forecast for a 90-day period, for example, I can do that, and the system updates the forecast amount and the corresponding order recommendation or production recommendation over here.
Cool. Just got another question. Does StockTrim automatically update whenever product material data is updated in Katana?
So we can set an automatic refresh frequency of 3 days as a minimum, but you've always got the capability to come in once you've made major changes to a BOM, for example, or you've got received a large amount of purchase orders. So for a Katana connection, you'll only see the Katana icon on the screen. And so you can always come in, for example, and just refresh the latest changes, from the buttons here on the left-hand side and pull across those at any time. So if you do want to do a manual sync, you can come in and do that, at your leisure, basically. So.
Cool.
But you can set it to automatically update as well, Geraldine.
Yes.
Cool. There was a question around just how implementation works. So if someone's interested and wants to get up and running, like how fast it takes and what the process looks like in terms of support to understand the software.
Yeah, so we recommend that you come to our website. We've got a big green button here, the Start Free button, that'll register you for a 14-day trial, and then create the connection, bring in your data from Katana, and that first sync might take 10-15 minutes, or it might take 30 minutes depending on the number of SKUs and the amount of sales transactions over the last 2 years that we import. But just let the system run. It'll bring in your data. Everything, all the forecasts will generate automatically that first time, and then we will be in contact with you to arrange a Zoom call to run through your data with you, and discuss how best to refine the forecast moving forward. But it's very, very simple to use. Like I said, the numbers all generate automatically, and it's really just ultimately the amount of extra time that you want to go in and spend editing and working on. I always suggest that you start with your most popular SKUs, for example, and refine the forecast as much as possible there, and then work your way down through your SKU list from there. But it's very simple to do, and we're here to help you at each step of the process. So.
Cool. Excellent. Yeah, got a great question here, like how StockTrim kind of works with seasonal businesses. So this was a particular question around like most of the sales happening in the last half of the year. how does the system, I guess, account for that?
Yeah, so if we go back here and look at the sales data here on the screen, once it loads up. Sorry, just taking a little bit of time to bring up the Skew Page. So here, for example, this is the blue line represents the sales history that we've brought in. So we can see here, for example, we might have a seasonal peak through August through October. That's going to be mapped forward. So I can see, if I take out my manual adjustment here, we've got that seasonal peak has been mapped forward. And if I scroll through to the following year as well, it's been mapped forward here again. So we take the sales history, project it forward, and then update as we get closer and closer to that time period. And you can always come in and put in your own manual adjustments. If you now expect, for example, that you're going to sell a lot more, say, for example, in the Northern Hemisphere sales period from Black Friday through Christmas, New Year, you come in and put your own manual adjustments in here. If, for example, we now expect to say, we're going to sell 6,000 units of this can in November because we've got a draft order in from a supplier, or we're releasing a new product and we expect that to be higher sales during that period. So we automatically forecast, but you can come in and update the forecast at any time. We've got the ability to turn off seasonality. It's on by default. So we're trying to pick up those seasonal trends. You can build in growth rates, and you can even change the model if you want. So by default, and the majority of our customers use the auto model and trust the system to forecast for. But if you do want to change the model and experiment with the data and the forecasts, you've got that ability, and you can do that at a SKU level. Cool.
Man, the questions are popping in now. Can you handle multiple currencies?
We can display a set currency so your cost price and your retail price, for example, will display in the initial currency that you show in Katana. But then if you do purchase in other currencies, we can load those and display those on the purchase orders that we create. So, but generally we just show on the SKU and on the dashboard your results in the base currency that you operate in.
Got it. Then the next question is with regards to sales history, how far back can StockTrim go in terms of pulling historic data?
We accept up to 24 months of sales history.
Okay. Can it project growth year over year?
So what we're projecting goes out for the next 2 years. So for example, let's scroll through, and we currently got a forecast right out to, in this case, June 24. So it's a set 2-year period that we generate for, and it's always updating and refining as we go through that, constantly moving forward cycle, basically. So it's always going to be projecting 2 years in advance for you.
Cool. Okay. In terms of how the actual forecast works with using POs versus looking at the past sales data, can StockTrim basically forecast materials needed based on what I think, sorry, I'm like pulling this up here, what has been consumed. So yeah, I guess the differentiating between just using POs versus like looking at the sales history, like how the forecast actually works in terms of what's being consumed. I think that's
so we do take into account amounts that are currently on order for open POs, but we do for the consumption history. So if I go back, for example, and we look at a component, so if we look at this aluminium can, so here, for example, this is the consumption history of a component being used across, the finished good. In this case, it's just one finished good. So for components, we calculate the the consumption history and project that forward. For finished goods, it's literally just the sales transaction history that we're projecting forward from there.
Cool. I think we got one more question that's being typed out right now as we go. And then also for everyone too, we'll provide back the contact information to the StockTrim team if you've got like specific questions along with ours as well. So if you've got questions after this session as well, we'll make sure that everyone's available for you guys to connect. SKU maxes. So how many SKUs can be uploaded at the same time, and then how many, I guess, users can be part of the StockTrim system? Is there a limit?
Yeah, so like Dom said, we've got some clients that only have a very small amount of products, so down to 12. We do have a few clients that have up to 50,000, but obviously that does slow down the processing and refresh times. So we really prefer, like Dom said, our sweet spot is anywhere from 5 to 10,000 SKUs. We can process 20 to 30,000 pretty comfortably. But once you start to get beyond that, it takes longer for the platform to process that information. So, and you can turn off SKUs in StockTrim. So if you want to get down to a more reasonable level and just use the platform for the finished goods or the components that you're that are important to you, you can turn off products in the background, whether you've got shipping charges, manufacturing charges, etc. You can turn all those off and just have the physical goods that you need to have forecasting for in StockTrim. So we can run through that in the demos with you. Yeah.
Cool. Maybe one more question.
All right. Aaron asked about how many people can use it as well. So
yes, yeah. So you get a number of users as part of your subscription, and you can add extra users per month. If you've got that requirement that you want extra dedicated users, we just charge an extra $20 per user per month.
Cool. Yeah, so I think for the onboarding team and process, basically it's super easy in terms of once you sign up, you have the ability to create a help session, and it's a Zoom meeting, right? So it's basically, I think your data's in there right away once you plug in, but then it's a matter of just working with the team, scheduling a call to go through it, and StockTrim team can help you out.
I'll just jump in and add something there for Olivia. We've tried to take something that's previously been quite complex and tried to make it as easy. I call it the trifecta. Like, we try to make it affordable, accurate, affordable, and easy to use, Olivia. So we should be able to, depending on how focused you are, what we find with you guys, SMB clients, is it really comes down to how focused you are. That it's fairly intuitive. We've got in-app tutorials or help functions. We do, Neil is our guy that will talk you through how to use the system. He's available at any time for a call or an email to guide you through. We don't set up extensive training manuals or programs, because some customers can literally load the API. You could get on after this, load the API and be up and running using StockTrim within half an hour. You could if you were focused. Some customers take a few weeks just because it takes a while for them just to assimilate, get a few things in order. So we find that it's really up to the motivation, I suppose, of our customer in order to get it up and running. So, but feedback so far has been it's surprisingly easy to get to a level of competence with it pretty fast. Next question.
Cool. Yeah, I think next question. So that's around looking at the existing stock and saying how many finished SKUs can be made out of it.
So that's something that you do internally. So we're just saying what is the amount that you need to create to meet your demand. You'd go away and look at what components you've got available, and then work out what's a quantity that you want to manufacture from that point, or what you can manufacture. But that's a great question.
Yeah. Cool. Got one more typing. I keep saying one more. It's this is great though. I've done many of these sessions before, and sometimes it's crickets, and then oftentimes when it's a really good presentation, you get lots of questions. So good work, guys. Cool. So you answered Olivia's question, which is great. Okay. I'm assuming you gentlemen are in New Zealand. Is there customer support in North America during 9 to 5-ish Eastern Standard Time?
Yeah, we are basically mostly in New Zealand. We have people in different parts of the world. We've got guys in South Africa as well that support that sort of the small amount of dead time, but we actually do work between ourselves, work quite long hours, and we've made it a point never to make our location to be an impediment to customer service. And we've received feedback that we're faster than American companies in responding to service requests. So because we know that we're a long way away from you guys in North America, we actually make it a point to be very responsive. So you may be surprised.
Just to answer Claudia's question there. So if how the forecast works is that we produce an initial recommendation, or how much we forecast you're going to sell during that month, and then if your sales are lower than that, we're going to bring the forecast down. If we see that the trend for that month is not going to go higher than that, we'll bring the forecast down to match that. If your sales are going to go up, our forecast will automatically recalculate to say, okay, we can see higher growth, we're going to forecast some more going forward. So the system will recalculate every time that you bring in data, from Katana. So if you're refreshing every day, for example, we're going to pick up those changes in your sales activity and adjust the forecast automatically from there and project forward from there. So the system will learn very, very rapidly, what your sales activity, what's happening. We'll start from cat bars and different chats. So if it's the cut link from Katana data. So we don't do basically order allocation or job recommendation. It's a forecast for your overall demand. And you put in the quantities that are consumed for each component, and that's the quantities that we're going to assume are going to be used in total, during your production processes, for each finished good. So if you've got wastage, that can then be recycled back into on-hand stock, for example. And if you process an amount that in Katana, then we'll pick that up in the next sync, and the forecast will recalculate from there.
That's a really good question, though. And then there's a question around reports.
What reports? Yeah. So you can pull out data from the individual Skew page, which is a summary of the sales history and the forward forecasts. But I think the most common one that people use is that you can download from the order plan screen a summary of all the SKUs that you're currently displaying on that screen, And we can also include on there the 24 months of forecast for the SKUs that are in there. And it's best to show, I could show it quickly on here, but it's best to show it with your own data, because then you can see, a snapshot of what you've got on hand, on order, the recommendations, your min-max storage levels, etc. And people can use that as a template to make bulk changes back into the system. So really powerful order plan download that can be used to make changes back to your data.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, I think we're good. But again, you're going to get the contact details for both Dom and Neil. But I want to thank everyone for showing up today, especially if it's late for some, early for some. We try to accommodate the best we can, but especially Dom, Neil, thanks for waking up early for everyone here. And looking forward to seeing if we can help support whether you're with Katana, StockTrim, or both in the future. Hoping to work with all you guys. So thank you again, and take care.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers.
See you later.